Once again, in 2013, America took home the title of the country with the largest prison population in the world. Yes, beating out Iran, North Korea, China, and of course everyone else, both in raw numbers and percentage of population in prison. As of December 31st, 2013, it was recorded that more than 1.57 million people sat behind bars in federal, state, county prisons and in local jails. Over half of those people were there longer than a year, and they were there for drug crimes. Yes, half of those people were there for drug crimes. More depressing statistics, African Americans, of course, are 6 times more likely than white men to be in prison. No racism right there, right? And Hispanic men are 2.4 times more likely, according to an analysis of the data. You remember that stat where I said that over 1.57 million people were behind bars last year? Well, that's just a conservative estimate. A lot more people are putting that number to around 2.4 million because of the people that are there for stints less than a year. And that, of course, doesn't include other factors like, I don't know, immigration detention as well. But wait. According to Pew, 1 in 31 Americans are in the correction system on parole, probation, or incarceration. So that number could even be higher. So, land of the free, huh?
Can we stop locking people up for things like, if you commit a real crime, I want you to serve a real sentence. Like, I know that's obvious. Like, if you're doing something non-violent, or more importantly, victimless, then that should be a non-crime and you should get out. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier was the fact that the state of California, the largest state in the union in terms of population, is legally obligated to reduce their prison population. The state of Texas is supposedly going through this big effort under conservative Governor Rick Perry to reduce prison population. And we're still seeing more and more people get arrested and more people get locked up. And the probation and parole system, like, those are better alternatives to incarceration. But, like, I would also like to save those for actual real crimes, like, that have victims. You know, like robbery, murder, rape, theft, fraud. Like, all those crimes have, like, victims, people who are harmed.
Yeah, but obviously when you smoke a joint, you're victimizing yourself. So obviously you should be locked away so you don't harm yourself again.
Yeah, you should be a good American and do normal drugs like smoke cigarettes, which is it's way safer for you than marijuana, and binge drink a ton of alcohol. And hey, if you want to drive on that alcohol, totally fine. Like, that's a legal product. It's obviously safe. You should also do a bunch of prescription drugs, like oxycodone or Oxycontin is not more addicting than heroin. Like, you should just have fun with that. Like, be a legal, solid American, like Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. Do all the drugs you want. Have a ball. Oh, but just make sure they come in a prescription bottle from Big Pharma. This, as you've probably guessed, a lot of this comes down to the drug war. We have such a high prison population because of our idiotic war on drugs. And we've got these mandatory minimums, right, which are somewhere around a year. And so that a lot of these, it's not surprising that over half of these people are in there for drug crimes. And then, of course, it's a majority of it is African Americans and Latinos, which is funny because there are a lot of studies that say that African Americans, Latinos, and white people do drugs at about the same rate. Yet African Americans are 6 times more likely to be put into prison for doing the same goddamn thing. Look, we talked about white privilege in the last segment. This is a perfect example of that. Institutionalized racism, white privilege.
What I want to see is 2 things. One is California legalize pot, because that's going to be it's a huge state, and that will be the only thing, because the Supreme Court apparently can't reduce their prison population, that will actually reduce their prison population. And the other thing I kind of like to see is the Fugitive Pot Act that if you're arrested for a marijuana crime in a shitty state like Georgia or Texas, or Louisiana, somewhere where you could get like life for your third strike, I want to see people fleeing to Colorado and Colorado providing them some kind of asylum. Because it's legal in some states and you can get life in prison. And sometimes it's life without parole. Like, thing that should be served, I mean, depending on your position on the death penalty, I'm against. The thing that should be reserved for the worst of the worst is being used against people who commit a crime with no victim, hence a non-crime. Like, it's amazing. It's literally amazing how insane our criminal justice system is. And no wonder we have so many people in the system. And but I feel safer knowing that all those nonviolent people are off the streets. Don't you, Jeff?
Right, because they're not harming themselves. You got to keep them away from themselves in order to harm themselves, or so they don't harm themselves. Wait, but if they're in prison, then they're also with themselves.
Hey, Jeff, did you know that drugs can ruin your life? So stop you from doing drugs. We'll throw you behind bars, and that will totally not ruin your life. It's so stupid. Like, honestly, we've done this story over and over again.
Oh yeah.
It's so fucking dumb. Like, we're not served by having the greater prison population. We're not more awesome than any other country. If anything, we're in a group of countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia, and Russia. I'm thinking of the death penalty, but we're in countries like that. We're way ahead of them. The only country that we're not sure if we're way ahead of is North Korea because we don't have accurate statistics from them. But it doesn't help us. It doesn't help our society to have creative people, normal people who experimented with drugs at certain ages, not being able to work. Because this just says this has the drug offenders, but it doesn't say the people who got a felony drug conviction and then couldn't get a job, so then they decided to turn to other crimes. Like, there's more effects on our broader criminal justice system that are disastrous from this drug war, and it's just so dumb. Can we have a rule that you point to the victim and I will give you a fucking crime? Like, that should be the rule.